Families play favorites all the time. Just how like I play favorites with my family, but you don't see them complaining about that now, do you? Exactly. G'day there guys, and welcome back to another episode of r/AmITheA with your host, Markee. We're going to be reading some spicy stories today. Now, if you love today's bloody good content, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn on that Barbie, and then get ready for some bloody good stories. Let's go. Am I the asshole for going to Six Flags without my stepkids? So I have 3 children, 8 female, 6 female, and 13 male from my past marriage. I have 2 stepchildren, 12 male and 15 male, in my current. My stepchildren are not my biggest fans, and have always favoured their biological dad, and have always opted to spend Father's Day with them. The past 4 years, they've declined to spend it with me, or even give me a card. This year, my kids and my wife planned a trip to Six Flags as a family. The boys decided to spend it with their father, repairing an old Chevy model. My kids still wanted to go to Six Flags, so I took them, despite my wife saying I'd created a divide. The boys left on Saturday and came back this morning. They saw the cups and knickknacks and put 2 and 2 together. They were upset and haven't spoken much, and my wife told me that this was what she was afraid of happening, and I should have just spent the day with the kids at home, as the boys now think I'm picking favorites. Am I the asshole? I don't understand why you didn't just tell the kids beforehand that you were going to Six Flags, and then give them the choice whether they come or not. I understand that Father's Day, you want to be with your father figure, or your actual father, as you put it. But you knew that we're going to get torn up about this, and you chose to lie by omission by not telling them in the first place. I feel like that's a dick move. You knew they were going to be upset by it. You saw the train coming to hit you, yet you didn't step out of the way. You just let it happen anyway. I know you can write this one off as being like, oh yeah, it was Father's Day. They chose to stay with their father and whatnot. But I imagine, had you given them the choice between going with their father or going with you to Six Flags, you'd be caught in an ethical dilemma because the dad would be pissed that you deprived him of Father's Day with the boys if they chose to go with you, or the boys would be pissed that you're going to Six Flags and they don't get to come. Now, I don't see anything these 2 teenage boys did wrong at all in this circumstance. They were lied to and are now upset that they missed out on a theme park. You can't write off these emotions with Father's Day. No, you're the asshole. Now there's quite a few comments for this one, so skip ahead if you don't want to listen to them. Our first comment is by user SylphyStar. Not the asshole. I have to lol at this too. Your wife has to be aware of how they act every Father's Day, and to say this will create a divide when she participated in the planning of this event. You wanted to enjoy your Father's Day. They wanted to spend time with their dad. It is that simple. They had the opportunity and chose not to take it. The boys are old enough to make their decisions, and they're old enough to deal with what follows. They seem to want all the fun without putting work into the relationship. Unfortunately, life doesn't work that way. Plus, theme parks are expensive. They aren't entitled to expensive trips to celebrate someone. They make it plain they don't really like much. And Neuralis replies, honestly, it really seems to bother me that so many people on this thread seem to think these kids genuinely had a fair choice of who to spend Father's Day with. It's great that their stepdad wants to be involved, but he's not their actual dad, and he's never going to be. It seems like the dad is still very much in the picture. Spending Father's Day with their stepdad would literally take something away from their relationship with their dad, and it's terrible step-parenting to expect that. There are plenty of ways you can work on your relationship with your stepkids without damaging their relationship with their existing parent. I'd also imagine the bio-dad would be incredibly hurt if his kids decided to spend Father's Day with their stepdad over him, and the kids probably know that too. They could have had their family day at Six Flags any other day of the year, but doing it on Father's Day and not telling them about it beforehand so they'd have a genuine choice seems an awful lot like they're punishing these kids for preferring their bio-dad over their stepdad. And Carrie Kateora says, not the asshole. You spent Father's Day with people who considered you a father figure. They spent it with someone they considered their father figure. They can't turn around and sulk because they didn't get to go somewhere nice. It was a Father's Day trip. They shouldn't join only for the trip while snubbing you as a father figure so openly. That said, they are young kids and can be expected to sulk. I would talk to your wife about speaking to them and turning this into a teaching moment. We shouldn't use people only for what we want from them and treat them badly the rest of the time. You can't only have the good things and leave everything else bad. It isn't right, and the world doesn't work like that. They created this situation with their behavior. You're the asshole. I don't get this. What did the kids do wrong exactly? They chose to have Father's Day with their bio dad instead of their stepdad, and are now upset that their whole family went to an amusement park without even giving them the option of going. I mean, I'm an adult, and I'd be pretty upset too. Tough Dog 18 says, I did not plan this trip, my wife did. The kids were going to the stepdad's favorite park. They didn't know that meant an amusement park, and they asked to be dropped off with their dad. We, my kids and I, usually spend Father's Day barbecuing and camping, or we see a movie or something to that effect. I had the same question as someone else. You write the Stepkids put 2 and 2 together, as opposed to, just being told up front they had a choice to either go to Six Flags or help with the car. Sorry, but everyone sucks here. Mostly your wife. 1. This was a setup. Your wife created a situation in which she knew her kids would be really upset when they got home and realized they'd been left out. She planned the trip and then turned around and blamed you by saying this wasn't a good idea, as it might create jealousy. But she was the one who planned the trip. So which is it? You created the jealousy by agreeing to go on a trip that she'd planned? How does that work exactly? She's the asshole because she deliberately misrepresented where you guys were going. Come on, be honest. Stepdad's favorite park makes it sound like a boring day strolling in some park somewhere. She deliberately left out the clear words, Six Flags. 2. When the kids came back, you still didn't tell them, but left out all the signs, so they had to put 2 and 2 together. You became complicit in your wife's deceit and basically flaunted the trip in their faces. You were less the asshole, but you are one for allowing your wife to plan the trip and for saying nothing to her kids. And 3, this seems to be a long-term pattern. Considering how easily you fell into accepting blame and how easily you turned this into, those rude stepkids didn't deserve a trip after how they treated me, when your wife manufactured the entire thing. Ask yourself about these dynamics. For whatever reason, your wife is creating a situation that makes you a permanent bad guy for her own kids, and her kids always feeling like outsiders. It's messed up. And Long-Jumping 2390 says, you're the asshole for getting annoyed that your stepkids want to spend Father's Day with their dad. Of course they do, and will probably want to every year. Marrying their mum does not make you their dad, and does not mean they have to get you Father's Day cards. If they're already not your biggest fans, what made you think a fun day trip without them would help things? If you want to do trips without them for Father's Day, then that's fine, but it would have been a good idea to plan a full family trip as well a few weeks later. I would suggest sitting down with them and explaining how just like they wanted to spend Father's Day with their dad, your kids wanted to spend it with you. There are going to be times when they do extra things with their dad and your kids miss out and vice versa. Let them know that you understand that it can be upsetting to miss out on things. Tell them how important it is that you are all a family, and maybe suggest a family day/trip. Remember that you are the adult here, and turn this into something positive. Our next post is by user FuzzySocks0000, titled, Am I the asshole for asking my husband if he is a sexist? So, I'm 24 female, and my husband is 31 male. We both make pretty good money, but he always makes more because he's 10 years out of college, and I'm only 3 years out. For the first time this past year, I actually brought in more income than he did. When I got my W-2 in the mail early this year, his had already come in the mail, so he knew what he earned. I looked at my earnings and was shocked, and I guess it was because of all of the overtime that I'd done in 2020, but I was still proud of myself. When I showed him, he was pretty speechless, but it didn't seem like it was in a happy way. He calmly said, "That's awesome, babe." In the moment, a little voice in my head was telling me that he felt a pang of jealousy or competitiveness, but he didn't seem like he wanted to keep talking about that subject, so I just dropped it. Just recently, we're now in June, we were talking about our marriage and money. He actually brought up that it initially upset him that I made more than him last year. He didn't really explain himself, just said that it didn't sit right with him. But after further reflection, he realizes it's not a competition. I'm over here scratching my head thinking, but why was that a problem for you in the first place? I would be thrilled if my wife brought in good money, especially 3 years out of school. It actually really upset me that he would ever have initially viewed this as a competition. I asked him, why would that upset you? Do you not think women should make more money than their husbands? And he replied with, don't try to make me out to be a sexist. And without batting an eye, I responded with, well, are you? And he flipped out and started saying that he couldn't believe I was accusing him of being a sexist when I know him. I wasn't trying to say he was a sexist, I was trying to get him to see how bad this looked. Instead, he just got defensive and has been very cold to me since. I guess I could see why he was offended because no one wants to be accused of such a horrible thing by their spouse. But I feel I have a right to ask that question, considering what happened. So, am I the asshole? Edit. To be fair, I did not accuse him of being sexist. He used the word. I asked the question, are you? After he already used the word when he said, don't accuse me of being a sexist. I did not attack him and say, you are sexist. I should have worded my response differently, but I admit I was pretty hurt. Another edit. At the time I told him how much I made, I didn't know how much he had made. His W-2 only came in the mail a few days before mine, and we didn't discuss it. So I wasn't trying to brag. I was just really proud of myself. And before I get to my opinion or the comments, I'm going to read the update to this situation that's also provided. So I posted it below, but I wanted to make sure everyone sees. We just talked, and he told me that he felt that way because he didn't want to feel like I had more power in the marriage. I asked him what was making him feel like money was a power thing. And he said that he feels intimidated by a female owning the finances because that gives her power over her husband. He said he always saw himself running the finances in his future family. I guess the question I asked in my head was, so you thought you had power over me before and wanted to keep it that way? But I took the advice of some of you and just kept it to myself because you're all right. He did do some reflection, and it was big of him to admit. I'm just sad that he really did mean it as a power thing. I appreciate everyone's feedback though, and accept that I may have provoked him with the way that I came at him. To be fair, yeah, there is elements there of the way that you came at him could have been accusatory, but I feel like you're just responding to the stimuli that you were given. He gave you one response that, it's not normal for him to respond in that way, so obviously you're gonna respond in kind. I feel like responding in a different way would be brushing the situation off. You just wanted to get an answer right here, right now, about what he meant by that. I can see how asking someone, well, are you? When they bring something up like that, it's like, well, no, I'm not a racist, but, well, are you? That can definitely be something that's very accusatory, out of left field, you don't expect it. I can see why someone would get angry with that. But I imagine she was reading his body language more than just the words coming out of his mouth. And you can tell a lot about a person and what they're thinking when you ask them these questions. And you see those responses. I'm gonna go not the asshole for this one. Yes, this is a tiff, but these two are married, and they should be able to trust each other to be honest with their responses. But I'm also glad that he did some self-reflection and realized that he wanted power, and he wanted power over her through the finances. So props to him for changing. Now in the comments, Outpan says, read the update, not the asshole. Please do not keep that to yourself. That is such a gross and disrespectful take on your marriage and is most definitely sexist. Don't protect his fragile masculinity like that. Call him out, if it is safe for you to do so. And Tergiver Sensation says, not the asshole. And regarding your update, I think the best thing for the time being is to let it go, like you did. But I also think it would be a good idea to bring it up at a later date, when you feel you can both be calm and rational about it. You were right that the fact that he thought through it is a really good thing. It's hard to come to grips with things that you've just internalized. I think this particular argument came to a good conclusion, but it would also be a good idea to have the whole income equals power discussion in the future. Sage Hamichi says, not the asshole. He felt that way because he didn't want to feel like I had more power in the marriage. So he is sexist. Wow. First step is to acknowledge it, I guess. Curious Bird 45 says, "Hey, reading your update. It's scary that was a power play and a red flag. You really ought to get counseling, not the a-hole, and I hope things work out for you." And Go Screw Yourself Reader says, "You're the asshole. He brought it up and agreed that it was stupid and selfish, but you on the other hand attacked him. I don't think it's sexism. It's likely his parents taught him some crap like men should be breadwinners. That is sexist, but I'll explain why he isn't. So he likely had it instilled into him that he should be making the lion's share. If he truly was sexist, he'd be much more open about it. This just sounds like an example of the wrong upbringings." You ever just read a comment and you just wonder, how are people this dense in the head? I think this is one of those times. That's just such a weird take. And Let It Be 27 says, "I may have provoked him. Sounds like an abused woman's words. I'm not saying he's abusive at this point, but any woman saying that alarms me. And I do think he has sexist tendencies based on this story. And I'd keep an eye out on that before things get out of hand. I hope I'm wrong and this is never an issue again, but it's impossible to know every little thing that makes up a person's mind and dictates their behavior without knowing them personally, and sometimes not even then. This is just a plea to be vigilant." So what do you guys think of that one? That's very weird. There's always one weird comment, isn't there? Our next post is by user ClearAngus7, titled, "Am I the asshole for not paying for gifts and necessities for my stepson anymore?" So my stepson is a very rude person. He actively is rude to everyone, including his mum. He hates me, and it's pretty obvious, but I really try to show that it doesn't bother me. He worships his dad. He tried to get them back together when they separated, but it didn't work out. I met his mum during the divorce, but I didn't start dating her until the divorce was finalized. Her dad isn't very well off, as he doesn't have a job, and now he's struggling. He's dating multiple women at the same time, and taking as much money as he can from them, which is how he affords to buy my stepson gifts. My stepson believes that his dad gets the money from his imaginary company that he has. His dad once got his friend to pretend to be an employee, but my stepson threatened to get him fired if he didn't do his every wish. His friend eventually got fed up and left. So my stepson is 14 and doesn't even know the name of the company. Once I got my stepson all kinds of gifts for his birthday, and he asked me how much his dad gave me to buy these gifts and say I bought them. I got fed up and told him that his dad is a major fraud and that his company doesn't even exist. He just got mad and went to his dad's. His dad said that I was lying, of course, and I've told my wife that I refuse to pay for anything that he needs or wants anymore. She told me I can't stop paying for his necessities, but I said that I could, since his dad could pay for them using the money he got from his company. My wife is now saying that I need to stop acting like a child, and that I'm a petty asshole. Am I the asshole in this instance? OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the asshole. I might be the asshole because his dad could refuse to pay for his necessities, and if he does, the only person who would be paying for him is his mother. Yo, what? This situation is actually kind of crazy. Why wasn't this sorted out sooner? Like, you let it get to this point where the son genuinely believes in this false reality, and you didn't just crush it from the start when there was no repercussions for crushing these delusions. I'd say it's somewhat both in your wife's fault for not stopping it before it got to this point, but regardless, I don't think you're the asshole for not condoning this behavior any further. It's fine for you not to pay for any luxuries and only to pay for the necessities for the child. I think that's fine. If he's not going to respect you, why should you respect him? Not the asshole. Now in the comments, Elizabeth Janet says, "Do you pay for the roof over the boy's head and food that he eats? Then you're already paying for his necessities. I don't blame you for being angry, but your wife needs to step in, and since she won't, you have to do what you have to do." But like, why isn't his mother paying for those things? She doesn't work either? Well, I guess she needs a job to pay for her own kid. Saluki Queen says, "It sounds like your stepson needs some serious parenting right now, but the solution to that isn't to act just like him. He's 14 and being manipulated by his dad. What's your excuse? Of course, don't get him extras if he's being rude to you, but his necessities like food, clothing, etc. should never be negotiable. You and his mum need to step up and help him be better. It's tough as hell, but you are his parents. Everyone sucks here, except your wife, because I don't have enough info on her involvement to give a judgment on her. I think wife's an asshole too. Why doesn't she do something about her kid? You said he's 14 and being manipulated by his dad? We're cutting this kid a lot of slack in our comments because he's 14 and grappling with everything that comes along with that while dealing with his mum and dad splitting up. But one thing I thought was telling in OP's story is that when the bio dad introduced a fake employee to try to look like a big shot, the kid immediately seized onto the perceived power dynamic there to try to bully and push around a grown man. I could look past some resentment at the stepdad as understandable given the kid's age and the circumstances, but the way he behaved with his dad's employee makes me think that this kid has major issues that go beyond the typical coping with divorce/stepdad scenario. I don't know what the answer is. Therapy, I guess, but it sounds like there is some fundamental nastiness there that may be hard to root out. Good luck with this kid, OP. And Water Lily A says, not the asshole. And your wife should have intervened long ago. She can't require you to buy her son anything and continue to actively ignore this child as he's rude and disrespectful to you both. This is her kid, so she maybe can't understand the feelings that you're going through because she will view every scenario with much more love and grace towards her kid. I suggest family counseling. Alright guys, that's the end of the video. Friendly reminder that I'm now posting daily on my second channel, Markee 2. If you want to laugh at memes with me, link is down in the description below. On phone, you just click that little arrow underneath the video. I also want to say thank you to all my channel members and Patreon subscribers. Your names are currently floating down the screen here, and I love to see all of you guys. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Thank you for supporting me. I really appreciate it. If you see yourself on screen, I want you to give yourself a big pat on the back for being amazing as always, and thank you for supporting me again. I do hope that you guys have a good day, night, sleep, whatever it is you're up to. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.